It was something that was on 24/7. For example, observing when the market opens and I had alerting systems, and I might have woke up 2 a.m. to check the opening lines and all that. And in the final years, towards the end of my career, I ended up seeing 500 games on venue per year. It's not only long hours. I mean, anyone can do long hours and just consume a lot of caffeine or whatever. But in professional sports bettor, you actually have to be extremely sharp all the time. You are making huge decisions. You have to process a lot of data all the time coming from all around you. Being 5-year-old to actually concentrate on something for a long period of time, it's something that's rather exceptional in that sense. Even those kids who played chess, they might have just went on doing something else after 10 minutes or whatever, and I was able to concentrate there for several hours in a row. I basically left alcohol, I left caffeine, I have made several other similar life choices as well. I've consciously analyzed my behavior and behavioral traits that doesn't really fit on doing something that requires extreme focus, extreme attention.
Welcome to the iGaming Leader podcast, where we uncover the human side of some of the most inspirational leaders in our industry. I'm your host, Leo Judkins, and as an ex-iGaming director turned performance coach, I've worked with over 200 leaders from companies like Entain, 365, Flutter, and many more to help them build the habits to achieve sustainable high performance. In these episodes, we share exactly what it takes for you to achieve the same. So with that being said, let's dive in. Hey everybody, welcome to the iGaming Leader podcast. I am really excited to be talking to Antti Koivula today, like absolute expert on Finnish law. We've met in Malta, I believe, when we were having dinner, and such an intriguing story, Antti. Been really excited to talk to you, get to know you a little bit better here on the podcast, talk about your challenges and the learnings that you've had from that, and share with everybody what kind of journey you've had. So welcome to the podcast, man.
Thank you very much, Leo. Pleasure to be here.
One of the big things that I loved so much about what you were saying is how you got, how your entire journey from sports betting into now being a lawyer. Can you talk to us a little bit more about kind of how your career started? And we'll talk a little bit about pivoting and where you are now, but I'd love to talk a little bit about the beginning, if that's okay for you, for how you started as a sports bettor.
I basically have two careers, as mentioned, or you already hinted. I used to be a professional sports bettor. I did that for 12, 15 years. That was my main livelihood. And from there, I switched to law, but I guess we handle that later on. How I got to sports betting, I used to have this side job for data collecting. I did that I got 50 euros per game, and it was good. I got to see a lot of games, and I have background in football, not high level football, but anyway, I loved the sport, and I got to see a lot of games, and I even got some money out of it, and it was, no brainer for myself back then. One day, after the game, I met a professional sports bettor, Timo Feltola, who used to be a rather good player as well in the highest divisions in Finland. And he introduced me the fact that it's actually possible to bet on these games. And it opened a whole new world for me. I mean, I had already seen a lot of lower league football, and my knowledge regarding the teams and the players was rather considerable. And I just got to sports betting with small amounts first. But then obviously I didn't win every bet, but I kept constantly winning much more than I lost. And during the years, the winnings increased so notably that I left the data collection job rather fast after I got into sports betting, and it became my full-time job, more or less. And I wouldn't consider it only a job; it was lifestyle. I mean, it was something that was on 24/7. For example, observing when the market opens on Finnish second division or Finnish first division, it's that might have happened in Asia in the middle of a Finnish night. And I had alerting systems, and I might have woke up 2 a.m. to check the opening lines and all that. And in the final years, well, not in the final years, but towards the end of my career, I ended up seeing 500 games on venue per year. So it was really, and it became really hectic. During summer season, when football is played in Finland, my working hours were just crazy, just out of roof. I might have worked 100 hours a week. I used to do 16, 18 hours Saturdays. I was absent home every single weeknight. And when it comes to weekends, it was just crazy. And that was actually the one reason why I decided to switch careers. I've been realistic. I consider myself a realist in the sense that I never thought sports betting would be something I would do until I retire, up until, I don't know, my 60s or whatever. And I studied law meanwhile. And I didn't want to graduate when I was still doing sports betting, because if I would ever practice law and ever apply to a law-related job, it would look weird if I would have, let's say, 5 years gap in my CV. So basically, my studies were rather far, and I just didn't graduate. And when I made the decision to switch careers, I graduated, and I didn't ever actually look for a job. But the day I joined LinkedIn, I was contacted directly by my current employer, and we got into talking, and that was the beginning of my current career.
Love it, man. Love it. Antti, I love what you said there. Like, I don't know how many people actually realize how intense that is, doing 100. A lot of people say, I'll do 100 hours, but literally doing 100 hours. What did life look like at that point? You had were your kids already born? They weren't back then, right? So
towards the end of my sports betting career, my older kid was born, and that was basically the reason why I wanted to switch careers. I really value my family life. I want to spend a lot of time with my kids, and with my sports betting career, it wouldn't have been possible, because I would have basically been always absent. And as you mentioned, it's not only long hours. I mean, anyone can do long hours and just consume a lot of caffeine or whatever, and just to hang on there. But in professional sports bettor, you actually have to be extremely sharp all the time. You are making huge decisions. You have to process a lot of data all the time coming from all around you. And on Saturdays, when the situation was most tense, I was just, my eyes were just going around everywhere. There's constant flood of information, and it's not like that you would just sit on your computer and do some typing using some social media meanwhile and whatever. But it was extremely intense, usually, more or less all the time. I really had to, when going from a game to game, I even had to schedule when I have time for a toilet visit. So it was extremely interesting, and it's not easy to explain to someone who haven't actually experienced the same thing. In general, I've always been rather good to focus. I can just close everything else outside of my head, no matter what's going on around me. I mean, if it's required, I wouldn't even notice if there's an explosion around me if I'm really on the zone. That's the thing. Appreciate the fact that I've been a professional sports betting. It has value for them per se by itself, and others who are not that familiar with the concept, they might not, see any any added value. That being said, my sports betting days have really molded me to the person I'm currently. And sports betting, it's all about focus. It's all about handling huge pressure all the time. It's all about risk assessment and risk benefit ratio. And also it's the ability to process small, tiny, smallest information there are, or the more precise information, and actually understand how it affects the big picture. And by that understanding and anticipating what might happen in the future, how the game might go on, how all the things will play out. And obviously all these things are extremely useful on my current job as well as a legal advisor. I can make the argument that, that's my greatest benefits. I'm not about legal jargon or, law states, these law states. That obviously it's important to understand the framework with which you work. But anyway, the law is much more than what is stated on the law book. It's all about practice. It's all about the risk assessment, likelihoods, and all that. That's what I'm all about.
Yeah, love it. And there's such a direct overlap, right? And if you're listening to this podcast, and like one of the things I was thinking about before actually coming here is how interesting it often is that we don't see these unrelated skills, right? You don't see how connected these two things are. You in a lawyer profession now and sports betting, right? But they are so connected. You've got a very unique set of skills, and they make you highly practical, make you very, very good at what you do. When was the first time that you realized that you had such an ability to focus?
I mean, it was in the school. I never had problems on concentrating, and I was able to basically zone in if needed, and then zone out when not needed. But it's that skill only increased by time, and it's hard to say. It was maybe more clear when playing chess. I got to chess when I was 4 or 5 years old. I was competing against adults and other people at the age of 5 in official chess competitions already at that age. And what I can say from my own kids, with all due respect to them and all kids in general, but concentration, it's not easy for someone being 5-year-old to actually concentrate on something for a long period of time. It's something that's rather exceptional in that sense. And maybe I started, I think I must have already started noticing that on my really early days in my youth, as most kids were just, even those kids who played chess, they might have just went on doing something else, after 10 minutes or whatever. And I was able to concentrate there for several hours in a row.
No, it's true, isn't it? Like I coach rugby for the kids, and it's just impossible for them to stand still. So I completely hear what you're saying. Okay, hey, I love it. What are some of the things that you've done over time to help you with focus? Tell me a little bit more about what you've done over the years to help you with optimizing your own mental or physical performance, or whatever that looks like for you.
Well, even though I'm extremely, I have a extremely good ability to focus, I still understand the need to optimize. And for example, in my sports betting days, in the beginning, I used to consume a lot of caffeine, and I was occasional drinker as well. And it was rather clear that, having a hangover when doing 16, 18 hours Saturdays and extremely focused work, that doesn't work out. So I basically left alcohol, I left caffeine. I have made several other similar life choices as well. Now, don't get me wrong, I still have my bad habits, and I love unhealthy food and all that. But anyway, I've consciously analyzed my behavior and the behavioral traits that doesn't really fit on doing something that requires extreme focus, extreme attention, and I've tried to eliminate and eliminate those traits. So alcohol and caffeine, those two will make the greatest examples in that sense.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, I can imagine like on a hangover doing 2 hours of focus, like 30 minutes of focus work is quite difficult. So I hear what you're saying. Hey, Antti, then at some point, right, you walked away. So as a professional sports bettor, of course, it takes risk assessment. There's uncertainty. There's constant analysis. But you walked away from that success to then start as a law student. Right? So can you take me back to that moment when you first seriously considered leaving betting behind, and like what was happening in your life to make you question everything you've built? And how did you feel in that moment? Because you must have taken that same analytical approach to that specific decision.
As mentioned, I'm a realist. I never considered sports betting as something to retire from, and I was actually studying law. Meanwhile, I was doing sports betting, and the law career has been my youth dream. And I really enjoy the fact that there's a framework within which you can operate, and if you know the framework, you will be able to fight the borderlines and allowed, accepted, and so forth. You will be able to use it for your and your clients' gain. And when the money gets growing and all went fine, it's just that all my other life was basically on pause. Obviously, I was doing lots of so-called normal stuff as well, but my, at least when it comes to my professional life, that was on hold, or other professional life. I guess the concrete change happened when my wife became pregnant to our first kid. That wasn't something unexpected. We had planned for that in advance and so forth, but I had seen, I had formed rather close community with few other Finnish sports bettors who were specialized in the same leagues that I. So I was in constant communication with them, and I had seen what happened to them when they got family and the hard choices they had to make. And that made me think about my own situation as well. I've always been extremely family oriented in the sense that the people who are close to me, they are really close to me. It was rather clear that if I would want to have a normal family life, to see my kids grow, to actually spend some time with my wife as well, not only to her to see me leaving now and now. So it became obvious that I wouldn't be able to sustain that wouldn't work out. And also at the same time, I had been doing that for decade and a half, and I had lost passion. And I've been lucky enough to be always able to do something for living that I'm extremely passionate about. So doing sports betting without passion about football, being skeptical about match fixing cases, which I got to see too many for my liking, and growing. So that made the decision much more easier. I had lost passion, and also the rationale was there. It was rather easy to see that I wouldn't be able. I would have to choose between family life and doing sports betting the way I had always done it. So in the end, it was rather easy choice. But it's also something, the career switch, that's something I'm the most proud of. I mean, I was extremely good on what I did. I was one of the best, if not the best, sports bettor who was concentrated on the Finnish leagues specifically, and then especially the lower leagues. So switching from that position to unknown, to unclarity, I had no. Before I made the before I chose to switch careers, I had no idea what's going to happen with me in the future. And already at that point, I had a 3-year-old daughter and wife to provide livelihood. And my wife was actually pregnant with our second kid at that time. So that was, I mean, my mindset has always been that everything will work out, as everything has always worked out with me. I just trusted that everything will work out as everything had always worked out with me. I had a humble attitude towards the law. I realized that I had 0 days of experience from practicing law, and I was 36-year-olds at that stage. So I was hugely handicapped in the field of law against, some of the older generation who had, by the age of 25, who had already 10 years of experience or whatever. But anyway, all worked out by the best.
And I bet, and we'll get to this story in a bit, but I bet your focus and your determination had everything to do with that, to catch up with the rest. So we'll talk about that in a bit. But I want to go back to something that you just said, Antti. There's many people that are stuck in careers, they feel maybe that they've lost passion, like exactly what you described, right? They lost passion a little bit. They feel that it's unsustainable. There's stuff that's happened in their personal life where circumstances have changed, right? You get kids or you get married, maybe you move, I don't know, whatever. There's circumstances that change. And you almost feel like you've got golden handcuffs on, right? Like you're stuck in a career that you're making really good money in. For someone as analytical as you, right, and somebody that really assesses those risks and thinks about, okay, what's the move here? Let's turn it around. What would you advise to somebody that is maybe stuck in the same position, maybe not necessarily in sports betting, but in that same kind of circumstance? How would you go about analyzing it and then taking action despite that feeling scary?
Obviously, there is no solution that would suit all situations. But in general, I consider that, life is too precious. We only have so many years to spend here, and being unhappy, stuck on even if it's a well-paid job, well-respected job, the life is too short. I appreciate the fact that I'm fortunate in the sense that everything has always worked out for me. Even though I don't believe for luck, at all. People make their own luck, even though that might sound a bit of a cliche. But anyway, I would assess the situation by analyzing how unhappy or happy I am in my current job, what the opportunities might be ahead, and how that equation will work out. I mean, personally, I would prefer doing something I really like to do over getting paid better, for example, and so forth. But there are people in different situations. But analyzing your specific situation that's what it's all about. And money and all those matters shouldn't be the key value there. Obviously, money is important up to a point, but after that point, it becomes maybe less important, and preference over other values could be given more.
Yeah, because that's the other thing, right? If you would have continued in that direction, if you would have kept doing the same, what would have been the consequence? How little would you have seen from your kids growing up, for example, or how happy would you have been in life?
I would be probably divorced. I wouldn't know more than my kids' names. And it might be that I would be even broke. I mean, because especially when it comes to sports betting, I don't think anyone can do that without actually liking what they do, without being passionate about it. It's something you live, something you breathe, on the top level. And as I mentioned, I had lost that passion. And when you lose passion and you just do sports betting for money, that's an equation for disaster. It just doesn't work out. You can do that for, certain period of time. It might be years, it might be something else. But anyway, it's not something that you can hold on by forever.
I agree. You know what, Antti? I think that's actually true in any high pressure career, right? I think any high pressure career where the hours become too heavy because you've lost the passion, that's a recipe for burnout. And it might just be happening slowly. I think the problem is that most of us, it's like boiling a frog, right? That most of us to sit there and the water gets warmer and warmer and warmer, and we don't realize that we're being boiled. So, well, maybe we realize it, but we never jump out because it's so scared to do that, to take that step.
Once again, if you can control the water, if you can decrease the water temperature or do something, I don't know, suit yourself or whatever, do modifications to the situation, then it might be tolerable in the longer run as well. But if nothing is done, it's equation for disasters. The situation will explode on your face sooner or later, and that's something. I mean, I'm extremely analytical, if that's not clear already at this point, and I think it would be really valuable for anyone in any position to assess their own happiness, their own behavior, and their own life, be their own Sigmund Freud, so to say, and understand what's going on, not only on your mind, but around you and how it affects you and what can be done, what cannot be done, what are the options and all that.
Hey, Antti, then you moved into law, and you've taken that same analytical approach, that same focus, that same drive to that profession. I think it also goes to show that you're very, very successful there. I think it also goes to show that the things that you're passionate about are far easier to grow, right? Far easier to put the hours and the effort into, which is also a key message, I believe. But take me through those first moments from kind of switching out of sports betting and then transition and then going onto LinkedIn for the first time, getting that message. Like, what did all of that look like? What did that period look like? And what was and then we'll talk a little bit about the first day and your first, like those first moments.
For me personally, I'm really on/off type of guy. I'm all in or, I'm all out. It doesn't matter for me. And when I switched all into law, and especially when I got that contact and I got specialized in iGaming law, with which I was familiar already to a certain extent, with the enforcement proceedings and all that. Well, basically from day one, when I got my current job, or already some time before that, I've been just getting information and constantly increasing my knowledge and what I know about this and that, how it's applied to practice and all that. There's always, the law is really fascinating in the sense, especially when it comes to the Finnish iGaming market, that in the past 4 years, there's been a constant change. I mean, there used to be a long period of stagnation with Veikkaus monopoly and not that much happened, but now they are liberalizing the market and lots been happening as we speak. But already a few years before that, there's constant development on the enforcement front, for example, in other fronts as well. So it's really great in the sense that there's always something to be learned, always something to be improved and to be understood better. And by achieving higher level of understanding, it's easier to make more accurate predictions of the future, to see how things will unfold in the future as well. But if you take a few steps back, you asked me to provide you how the feelings before getting that contact from Minna in LinkedIn and all that. Well, basically by summer, was it 21, I believe, I had already made the choice that I will switch careers. I had taken my master's degree, or I had graduated from law school in the beginning of June, and I made the decision to graduate and switch careers early in 21 at latest. And I was still doing sports betting, but I wasn't devoting that much time to it anymore. I was, so to say, slowing down, but it was really hard to just jump off from something you've been doing so many hours per week. So I was taking time out. I was slowing down with sports betting. And after I made the decision, let's say by summer 21, I didn't take any more bets at all. And I was taking time off. I was joining the time with my wife and our daughter back then. And, really devoting myself for them and the family life. I had the intention to start looking for a job maybe by the end of that year or something like that. I made the decision not to do anything for at least 6 months. So, I was charging my batteries and all that. And when I made the decision to actually start doing something, as mentioned, I joined LinkedIn. It must have been November 21 or something, and I got contact from my current employer, Minna Ripatti, the same night. So I was literally on LinkedIn less than 12 hours before I got that contact, and I didn't have any followers or any connections or whatever, and I hadn't sent any applications either. I hadn't done anything, but we got to talking, and that's where everything started.
Yeah, that's so awesome, Antti. Really fantastic. How were those first moments for you where you were saying, you were obviously a bit older, joining profession later than all of them. Most people had graduated. You felt a little bit behind with like zero experience. How was that for you? How were those first moments for you? And how did you react based on that?
After my graduation, I mean, I'm extremely self-aware. I realized that I was in a handicapped position with the younger graduates when it comes to normal positions, when it comes to doing the normal stuff people doing in their 20s in their professional legal life and all that. And I also understood where my strengths are, the high concentration skills and able to see even the tiniest details and form the big picture from there and anticipate what's to come and all that. So well, as mentioned, I never got to apply anywhere, but I wouldn't have applied in a positions from which to which my strengths wouldn't have provided me, maybe not an advantage, but the handicap would have been smaller. So I didn't, obviously, there was lots of question marks in the air. I had absolutely zero plans on, where I will work in the future and what I will do. But once again, life has proved to me again and again that if you really put your mind in something, and as I've mentioned, I'm really on-off type of person, and well, success will follow sooner or later. But I took an extremely humble approach, and I was ready basically to accept anything that will suit my strengths. So not any position per se in any area of law, but basically any position in a company or in an area of law that will, suit my strengths.
Yeah. So humble, but quietly confident, as we call it, right? So backing yourself, pitching for what you know about, always a really great way to succeed. So as you joined and as you are now in your current career then, Antti, what's the proudest moment you've had? What are some of the things you're most proud of?
Well, definitely the career change. I mean, I don't know what could be more successful. I really personally appreciate that much more than I could ever, over any single achievement per se. I was able to come from a successful position of being a top sports bettor and making the decision based on family values, based on prioritizing having time with my family. And I was able to make a total switch to another career and being successful over there. That's something I'm extremely proud of. And I cannot think of being possible to match that with anyone with anything in the future either. So it's that will with extremely high likelihood remain the highest achievement personally for me. So someone else might consider that something else is of more value or whatever, but that's what I personally value the most by far.
Yeah, I love it. Really great success. I always love a good story that works out really well. So thank you very much for sharing that, Antti. Your very last question. For anyone who's listening and is maybe struggling of backing themselves like you have, you're quietly confident in your ability, arrogant about it. You just know it will work because you will make it work out. Someone who's not that confident about what they could do, what do you feel that they could do to help them just become a little bit more confident in their ability to back themselves?
In general, I would say that it's not worth it overthinking it. Overthinking anything doesn't help. And also trying to overachieve, it often only leads to burnout or, depression or something similar. And that's not helpful. That's not good for anyone. When it comes to obtaining self-confidence, obviously it's important to know yourself first, know your strengths, know your weaknesses as well, and work it from there. I'm not a psychologist, so I don't have the basic tricks how self-confidence is created or so forth. But I would say that from my perspective, knowing yourself, knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, knowing what you can do, and so forth, that's a good starting point for anyone in that sense.
Yeah, completely agree. It's sometimes difficult to find, but maybe we have to write down our successes. We recently had a public speaking coach inside our mastermind because most of us get nervous on stage, and he talked about it as writing down your successes and building a wall of confidence. And I think that's so important because those stories help you perhaps through those moments where you're not as confident as perhaps you want to be.
Definitely. And practice, when it comes to public speaking and all that, I mean, I'm sure you know all about it as, in your position, but practice always helps as well. I mean, and when it comes to analyzing, especially something that's too close to you, it really helps to, if you have to do it by yourself, it really helps if you are writing something down, positives, negatives, at the strengths, weaknesses, and all that. And if possible, it's always great to, get a help of an outsider. It's always easier for an outsider to provide, the fact that, hey, you are actually great on this and that. You should concentrate on that. While in the same person own mind, that they might not, it might not be possible to see that close, to to see those characteristics that are too close to you. It becomes too personal, and it's not that easy to analyze yourself. So getting outside help, outside analyzing in that sense, that's extremely useful as well.
Yeah, I always say we're inside of our own bottle, and inside of our own bottle, we can't read the label. So love that perspective from an outside view. Really important. Antti, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. Really loved having you here. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you very much, Leo, for having me.
Thank you for joining me on the iGaming Leader podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, head over to igamingleader.com for more conversations and insights. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast. I'm your host, Leo Judkins, and I hope to see you next week.